Hey, so I promised I was going to give you some daily videos with some tips about things that we probably have at home, apart from naughty doggies, um, to help us with our immune systems. So I was going to start off with garlic. No, get down. I'll just get rid of my assistant quickly. So, during the Spanish flu, people believed that garlic was going to be helpful to them to help ward off the flu. But what they did with garlic was they hung it around their necks, which is probably less effective than actually taking garlic. But they also had strategies like keeping the windows open, apparently putting salts up their noses, and taking laxatives, and the other one was drinking copious amounts of alcohol. Now, I think with lockdown at the moment, most parents are close to that last one, although I wouldn't recommend it for your immune system. So, garlic. This is what I have. Most of you should have some garlic at home. If you don't worry, don't panic. Just add it next time you hit the shops, which might not be for another week or fortnight. I do think it's very important that we adhere to what we're being told with only making absolutely essential outings to the stores. So why garlic? Garlic is amazing. It does a lot of things that are really good for us. It has small amounts of vitamin C and selenium and antioxidants like lutein and zeaxanthin, which are helpful to our immune systems. But it also has compounds which are sulfur-based, that are really helpful for many, many aspects of our health, and one of those would be our immune systems. I learned something quite cool. Well, I have a very good book, and if you're into learning a lot about your food, this book here is wonderful. The World's Healthiest Foods by George Matlin. I don't know how you pronounce his surname properly, but it's Mateljan. And look, you can see massive. And he just talks about food, so garlic, onions, mushrooms, beans, lentils, and tells you really cool little tips and hints about them and ways to cook them better and the nutritional benefits. He also has a lot online on his website. But one cool thing that I learned in there about garlic is that when you pickle it, often it will start to turn blue-green. And that is due to a reaction between copper that is contained naturally in the garlic and sulfate. So essentially your pickled garlic, which may be in things like kimchi, has copper sulfate in there. When we were in college, we used to have to do some experiments with copper sulfate. They used to make us, I don't know why, because I've never ever done this in my pharmacy career, but we had to make suppositories. And when we were making the suppositories, we had to put copper sulfate in them. So if they weren't perfect, the copper sulfate either went to the top or the bottom, and your color wasn't perfect. Saying that, I don't think I would have recommended anyone use the suppositories that we made in college. So garlic. It's very good for our immune systems. It's antioxidant and has anti-inflammatory properties, which if we were unfortunate to get a cough or cold or flu, would be helpful because it will help balance and moderate the response that we have and how we fight the virus. It's also protective against cancer. Sorry, I have notes in case I forget things. It's helpful for cancer, cardiovascular disease, helpful for our gut health. Although I will say some of my patients that have what I would call dysbiosis or an active infection going on in the gut may not tolerate garlic that well, probably because maybe two reasons. The garlic is actually working for the benefit, being slightly antibacterial, but it's creating a bit of die-off and the effect may not be strong enough, so they're just sort of suffering a little bit of a side effect to its beneficial work, and maybe we need to go a bit stronger with other substances first and then add in the garlic. Some people can be sensitive to the sulfates, especially if they have, I think it's molybdenum deficiency. And another reason is that it's quite high in fiber, which can create a bit of gas and flatulence in those that are sensitive. I personally am not a great fan of raw garlic. I just find it really, really hard on my tummy and my whole system. So I do cook garlic, although there's a downside to that, and I'll explain why a little bit later, and there's ways that we can make that a little bit better. So yeah, garlic, absolutely amazing for us. And I'm going to talk about little things like how do we choose our garlic when we're buying. So 80% of the world's garlic supply comes from China, which is quite ironic at the moment. Now, unfortunately, what they often do with the garlic in China is they add chemicals to it to stop it sprouting, and they bleach it so that it looks perfectly white. Now, I'm quite vigilant in that I buy my garlic from Europe, although I'm a little bit suspicious about what might have been done with this clove of garlic, because as you can see, it's rather perfect. This garlic, which I can vouch for, is Spanish, and it's also got a lot of imperfection going on. Those purple streaks are probably some anthocyanidins, to be honest. But you can see that even in places, there's quite a lot of marks. If you can see, that's good. It's not gone off. There's nothing wrong with it. Sometimes you'll find that garlic starts to sprout a little bit. Is that harmful for us? No. Is it going to make it taste stronger? Yes, and I'll talk to you about that. But this is a pretty good clove of garlic. They're a little on the skinny side, and just for convenience, it can be handy to get garlic that has larger cloves. So this is a bulb. These are the cloves. When we buy it, it should feel good and solid. And like I said, I love the garlics that have a bit of rose in them. I just think they taste nicer. Maybe they're a little bit milder. Avoid sprouts, avoid moldy bits, avoid shrivel bits. Garlic like this will keep for about a month in your house if you store it the right way, which is, it can be covered or uncovered, but it needs to be not get damp, and out of the light is better, because the light will cause it to just age faster. Now, what's pretty cool, which I didn't know, is that this garlic is still breathing. It's called respiration, and that's why you shouldn't completely cover it up or put it in the fridge in a damp environment. It will go off faster. So we want to store it so that it has a slower respiration rate. So dark place, dry place. When we start to use the cloves, so obviously you get them cracking it out, this will start to go off a little bit faster. So it might be reduced to about 2 weeks. I'm making a nice mess here. If you start to see bits of it go off, just take them off and the rest will be okay. If you see it sprouting, you have an option. You can cut them off, cut them out, or you can add them to your cooking. Now the sprouts, what they do is they start to intensify all of the really strong compounds in the garlic that make it taste really pungent. So they're going to taste more, but what actually happens is the rest of the clove starts to taste less strong and smell less strong when we cut it or cook it. I'm glad to read that, because I never bother cutting the green bits out, and invariably mine sprouts somewhere along the line. I think I have it in the light actually too much, even though it's in the dry. So storage, very important. When you want to cook with it, obviously you take your cloves apart, and then it's best if you can whack it either with your hand or with the side of a knife, because that will just help you peel it easier. Although sometimes if I can't be bothered doing that, I'll just cut the end bit off and then peel from there. They say if your hands get quite garlic stinky, to clean them with a metal spoon. It must remove the oil compounds somehow, or maybe there's an interaction with the metal. I'm not so sure, but look, life's too short to be worrying about a bit of garlic smell. So like I said, the sprouts are bitter, but they're good for you. So the bitterness is, the sprouts contain flavonoids, which are good for you as well. Now, so why does garlic get really stinky when we start cutting it? That's because we break the cell wall, which separates an enzyme called allanase from the allin. And then when they meet, they create a compound called allicin, and also some other sulfur compounds, which are really good for us. So we want that to happen. And to optimize the amount of those beneficial compounds, we want to mince, finely cut or crush the garlic and leave it for 5 to 10 minutes before we either eat it raw or we're cooking with it. And that will greatly increase the amount of beneficial compounds in there. Now, these compounds are sensitive to heat. So the longer that we heat the garlic for, the less benefit there is of the garlic. So unlike what a lot of recipes say, which is heat the oil, put the onions in, put the garlic in, what you want to do is put the garlic in towards the end. Also, the pan temperature will tend to be lower towards the end of cooking, rather than at the start where you tend to get the pan quite hot. Now, I never recommend cooking on a really, really hot pan anyway, because it will start to reduce the amount of goodness in your vegetables or that you're cooking. So, but yeah, with the garlic, start adding it towards the end and try and avoid cooking it in heat for longer than maybe 15 minutes. When it starts to hit the 30-minute, 45-minute mark, the beneficial compounds are greatly reduced. Now, me and my sensitivity to garlic, what I often do is roast garlic. The compounds in there, the sugars, the starches tend to turn to sugars, so the garlic becomes a lot sweeter. But unfortunately, the beneficial compounds are greatly reduced as well. So as much as I'm trying to cope with the really strong garlicky taste, roasting it is taking some of the goodness away. So I need to just go back to using the garlic crushed. When I was in school, I used to just eat raw garlic most days. I must have stank, but I can't do it anymore. So keeping the temperature low, but garlic can be added to anything. So if you want to use it raw, things like guacamole, pesto, hummus, dips are going to be amazing for you. Again, prepare the garlic, slice or crush the garlic, and let it sit for that 5 to 10 minutes before you finish making what you were going to make. Cooking, garlic can go into everything. Your curries, your tomato-based dishes, your coconut-based dishes, your casseroles, beans, bean burgers, cooked mushrooms, cooked vegetables. Like, try and get garlic in, because it's going to just be so good for you right now. It's one of the strongest foods in the cupboard that we have that will be supporting our immune health on multiple dimensions. So yeah, garlic. Don't have it, add it to the next shopping list. Look for the European garlic and try and avoid the perfect looking ones. Was there anything that I missed there that was an interesting tip? No. Although I'm quite curious now to pickle the garlic and try and make some copper sulfate out of it. So yeah, get your garlic in. I hope you're all taking care of yourselves, and I know we're in for a bit of a long haul now, but the more effort we put in now, the better it will be, and the faster this will be over. So hang in there. Bye.